Magandang hapon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Paola. Again, it's a big honor to be here before all of you, and very humbling to follow Mayor Gatchalian's talk. Good afternoon to all the participants, to Ma'am Liling, to Ms. Bem, to Jessel, my co-panelist, May Paner, who is also on her way. I was very happy to have the chance to talk before you. I think the reason I was invited by the organizers, and I want to thank them, is that Inside Gov, which I work for, serves as the secretariat for a coalition of young groups that are engaged in elections, political reform, and political engagement. Ito po yung Youth Vote Philippines. And you can find out more about Youth Vote Philippines by searching it online. Okay, I have a lot that I want to share with you in a very short period of time dahil maghahabol po ako ng biyahe pabalik ng Maynila. So please bear with me as I share some ideas. There are four main things, four messages that I want to share. So let me start with the first one. Okay, this is something we usually share with different audiences when Inside Gov goes around to talk to different groups. Ito po yung nakikita naming cycle of the reform process in the Philippines today. Sisimulan ko po, you can start anywhere, but we usually start here. Ang problema po natin madalas is our politics is right now a closed system where only a few are able to participate. And right now, predominantly, it is characterized by what many of us know as trapo or patronage politics. We were lucky to have Mayor Gatchalian and Mayor Karen kanina, but that's not the norm. I think that's why we have speakers like them come here and inspire us, because honestly, it's difficult to find public servants who are really out there to help and to think about the long-term future of the communities. But that's not the norm today. I think you will agree with me na mas madalas pa rin po, nakikita pa rin natin ay yung mga patron na nagbibigay na mas mahalaga yung short term para makapanalo, para makasariling ginansya kaysa magserbisyo at tignan ang long-term future, ang long-term welfare ng mga communities. So that's where we usually start. Because of that, they tend to capture our institutions, which leads to a weak state, poor and ineffective governance. Kaya yung development, yung mga advocacies natin, madalas mahirap maabot. Nagkakaroon ng political instability and social conflict. Marami pong umaalis ng Pilipinas para maghanap ng pagkakataon at trabaho sa labas. Marami ding nagkakaroon ng insurgency, karahasan. So that's the problem there. And that, because of that, we're led right back there to trapo or closed politics. And what we want to say is, if we want to break the cycle, kasi paulit-ulit po ito, what we need to break is here. And what we need is change agents, or what we like to call a reform constituency. At kaya po ako nandito para sabihin, you are this reform constituency, or I really hope that we can be part of that constituency that wants change or reform. Quickly, I wanted to show you our framework. Naniniwala po kami that there is a close connection between democratic politics, good governance, and sustainable outcomes. So, you cannot have good governance if something's wrong with your politics, and then you cannot have the development goals that you want if you do not have good governance. So again, it's a cycle, and they're very closely related. Ito po yung isa naming analysis. Sa ngayon po, we are very good at development. I'll ask any of you now what we need for our country to be better, and you will all have an answer for me. If I ask a taxi driver or a man on the street, alam din niya yan. Mabuting edukasyon, equality, gender equality, better health services. So we all know what we need. So we're very good at that. We are sort of, kaya 5 stars po, we're sort of good at governance. We already know some of the changes that we need to do to improve the way that government is run, decisions are made about people's money and about the way we work. We're still not very good at it, but we sort of know where this is going. And I think that's why we're all here as young leaders. But we are not so good at this. I'll just give us one star. Parang we know that this is what we need is good governance, but we often leave this to the politicians. We pray and we hope for good leaders, but we usually don't do what we need to do to make sure that the good leaders are elected. Diba? So, yung point lang po namin, I think we can do better here. And that's the challenge that I want to pose to you today. Okay, I also wanted to share this slide. Someone named Campos, a thinker, a researcher, put this together. He says that the core elements in successful reforms, there are three. One is, sa loob ng gobyerno, you need reform champions. You need a reform team. Diba? Right now, I think I have some sense in my mind, some people come to mind about who our reform champions are in government. And you may have your own. The people that you know who are in government at the local and national levels who are trying to make a difference there. I think we know who some of them are. We may have different ideas about who they are. But this is important. They need to be armed with the technical tools and knowledge to implement the programs that will help us, that help the country. But they cannot do the work alone. They need, number two, outside government, they need allies. They need a reform constituency. Usually when we use the term constituency, ang naisip natin si constituency ni mayor, di ba? Or si constituency ni congressman. What we're saying is there needs to be a constituency for reform or for change. They need to understand and support the reforms. They need to be organized. They need to be informed. Sabi nga ni Mayor Gatchalian, that the work has to happen at the local level. It has to be angkop dun sa lugar ninyo, kung anong nangyayari sa lugar ninyo. They need to have the numbers. Yan ang panlaban natin sa pera, sa kapangyarihan. And they need to be able to influence, if through numbers or through strong advocacy efforts. So, yan ang reform constituency. Right now, this reform constituency includes parts of the church, maybe, includes parts of the media, includes parts of civil society, and we hope it includes youth like you, our youth organizations, our youth groups. No? We have to be the reform constituency. And finally, sabi, so you need to have inside government, you need to have reform champions. Outside, you need to have a constituency for reform. And then we need to be able to have strategic effort for public mobilization using media. This is a newer thing, no, that we're all familiar with. The new media also is a way to mobilize the public to support the reforms that we need. Okay, I just wanted to show you that to lead me to my message number one. We need to build a constituency for reform. And we need to be that constituency. Wala na po tayong maaasahang iba, kundi ang ating sarili kung gusto natin mangyari yung mga pagpapago at pag-unlad na gusto natin para sa ating bayan. Message number one. Let me move to my second message. Okay, I think you had already one full day, tama po ba? Yesterday already talking about the role of the youth. So, ano na po to? Very familiar to you. I don't have my statistics correct. I think I don't have it. I don't have it here. But I understand that youth make up already the majority of the population. Tama ba yun? Meron na bang nagbanggit nun? Yes. Okay, great. Ang intindi ko, 46% yung, at least in 2010, yung 16 to 24. Dagdag nyo pa yung up to 35. Nakasama pa ako. Majority na tayo. Di ba? So, we are the majority of the population. May TV na rin ako kasi so we're the majority of the population, and that means that the youth issue is actually everybody's issue. So when we talk about ano ba ang agenda ng youth, actually everyone, what is important to us is what is important to the majority of the population. And I think the important thing about that is we also have the ability to bridge, because we know where we've come from as children, the needs of young people, and we also have a sense of the future. of what it means to care for our elders, the needs of the older population, so we can bridge across generations, and we can also bridge across class, because sanay po tayo doon, yung interacting with different people, and we enjoy diversity, we enjoy differences, so we have that ability to bridge. We have high energy and idealism, as we witnessed in the dance number of that came before me. We have out of the box and critical thinking. No? We can think out of the box. Hindi tayo natatali dun lang sa sinasabi ng iba sa atin. You know how to think creatively. We're open to new ideas and ways. Hindi tayo kontento dun lang sa dating gawin. We want change. You're tech savvy. Hindi ako makikisama dyan. Pero you're very tech savvy. You know how to use technology for advocacy. You know how to use technology to make change happen. But you just don't, hindi lang knowing it, you also act on it. Youth are action-oriented. And finally, I couldn't think of the right words for this, pero ang napansin ko sa kabataan ngayon, nakukonekta niyo to. At alam ko yan dahil madalas nung ginagamit yung term na emo. Oh, bago yan. Wala nung panahon ko niyan. Dati yata tawag namin senti. Yan. Pero ngayon ko lang narinig yung term na emo. Nag-emo ako. And in Rappler, how many of you go to the Rappler website for news? Diba? Yan, marami. You read news and then you click on the mood. How does this article make me feel? And I think that's unique to this generation. Being able to make that connection. That's what's important here is also what's important here. So it's a very, very good majority to have for the Philippines. The time is right for you to be the voters, to make the differences through your votes. So my message is, tinatanong ng marami, is there such a thing as a youth vote? I'm not sure. Pagka sinabi bang this kind of leader is who the youth will vote for, I'm not sure. But I do know that the youth can make a difference. If we can act as one and we also share the same values, then we can vote the people that should be in power, that can make the changes that are important to us as young people. So that's my message number 2. And my message number 3 is this. Right now, I believe we are on a reform track or the path of reform. Ano po nakikita niyo dun sa image? Ano po yan? Rice field. Pero ito, road. Okay, anong problema? Sorry, medyo malabo pala siya. Rocky road. So, it's a matuwid na daan, pero bako pa. No. Putikan pa. Wala pa, hindi pa siya sementado. Mukhang nagamit sa ibang bagay hindi si Mayor Gatchalian, ng ibang mayor yung pondo, at hindi pa nagagawa yung kalsada. But the important thing is, we do have a straight road. We have a matuwid na daan that we are trying to work for right now. And so I like to think that we are on a track to reform. But there's so much that we need to do to finish this road. And that's where we come in. I just wanted to also quickly show you this. Right now, the President is committed to the Filipino people to complete an agreement called the social contract. Ang sinasabi ng social contract na ito ng gobyerno na sinimulan after Pinoy won in 2010 is that there are 5 areas, 5 priority areas for reform right now. Good governance. Yan yung kanya, naalala niyo pa yan, yung walang corrupt. Poverty reduction and inclusive growth. Yan yung walang mahirap. Peace and rule of law and integrity of environment as the pillars to support the first 3, the ones inside. So ganito, sinusubukan ng gobyerno na itupad yung pinangako niya ng 2010 na walang corrupt, walang mahirap. The 3 pillars are again, good governance, poverty reduction, inclusive growth, peace and rule of law, and integrity of environment. So this is in the budget ng Bayan website ng gobyerno. These are what they are envisioning for us. So the question is this also what we want? Are these the things that are important to us? And if it is, do we want to help government move in that direction? Okay, very quickly, while I was on my way here, I was thinking about the things that has happened in the past 3 years. Because oftentimes, we think of the negative things, no? About ano pa yung kulang. Pero meron na rin namang nasisimulan. Kaya sabi ko nga, kickstart pa lang. Hindi pa nabubuo, malayo pang kailangan puntahan. But there are many good things happening right now. This is my favorite part, the first one, because this is where we work. Right now, there's something called the bottom-up budgeting process that is happening. Hopefully, you can look more into that. The DILG made a full disclosure policy, which means all local governments need to disclose 14 documents quarterly. So, ibig sabihin, if you want to see where your money is going, the local government is supposed to provide you with that information. There's the seal of good housekeeping, which is connected also to what Mayor Gatchalian was talking about earlier. There's an empowerment program for civil society organizations. Pera ng Bayan is a reporting site ng Department of Finance. There's also the citizens' budget. It's the way that the government right now is trying to help us to understand the budget and is opening up the budget to us. Other things, in the area of anti-corruption, na pinrami sa atin, pinatuturo. Pero these are ongoing cases. And we know that we had a CJ impeached this year. An ombudsman was made to resign through public pressure. We've heard about this recently. 77% of GDP growth. We're actually second only to China. And in Southeast Asia, tayo ang top in terms of growth. Some programs of government right now, maybe of interest to you, is the K-12 program, which is affecting the years of our studies, but will help to put us on the same standard as other countries. Bills that have recently been discussed in Congress and the Senate. Sin tax bill. Signature na lang ba yung kailangan? RH bill, kahapon lang. Pinasa sa Congress and sa Senate, so we're very near that. FOI bill, yesterday, also moved a step ahead in the Senate, the Freedom of Information bill. Some reforms in mining, logging, and land use. So, whatever side we're on, whether we agree with these bills or not, the thing we want to point out is no other time have we had the opportunity to discuss these bills as they have been discussed right now in the Senate and Congress. So there are a lot of good things happening. So the question is, how do we improve on them? How do we move towards them in the next 3 years? I'll skip that. But definitely, many, many more difficulties remain. There are those mechanisms that have been put in place, pero ang dami pang pagkukulang. No? And I won't go through them one by one. But clearly, there are a lot of work that still has to be done, and government cannot do it alone. And if we let government do it alone, then the way that it has to be done won't happen. It will need our support as the young people of the Philippines. Here's another problem, the present reality of Philippine politics. These are the predominant characteristics, for me, of politics today, lalo na sa local level. Patronage politics. Andyan pa rin yung guns, goons, gold. No? Dominance of political dynasties. Pinag-usapan yan kanina ni na Mayor. And as much as I also don't necessarily agree that a law to prohibit all dynasties is the way to go, my feeling about it is it just raises the question for me. Yes, we should not prevent good families from leading certain areas, pero bakit parang sila lang yung merong pagkakataon na gawin yon? Are they the only good leaders out there? How come there is no space for new faces? Or people from who don't come from political families to win? What's wrong with our politics that this is really that only a few have a chance to become leaders? Epal politics. Okay, pinag-usapan din yan kanina. Yung problema ko rin naman dito ay, ano bang problema ko dito? Maybe it's just in the phrasing. It's the way that politicians claim to be the ones giving us those services when in fact we are the ones who are paying for those services. So baka ganun yung ano ko dyan. Ang tanong is, pagka they're giving themselves credit where the credit is due to the constituencies. Diba? So, ang problema ngayon, vested interest, closed governance, impunity. So these are still some of the predominant characteristics, although they may be changing, and I hope they are changing in the areas where you live. Quickly, I just remember when I first saw this picture of the candidates who are running in 2013, medyo nalungkot po ako. Kasi puro mga lumang mga muka, konti lang po yung bago. Konting-konti. And I'm thinking, we need to work with this group of senators in 2013. Kung sino man ang mananalo dyan. So we will have to choose well among our options. But I think it's the wake-up call that if we want this, we want to have more options in 2016, 2019, 20... Hindi na ako po sa math, no? If we want to have more options in the coming elections, we need to start working now. Hindi po pwedeng hayaan lang natin na pare-pareho yung tumatakbo. Some challenges as we move forward. What have we known? We've known centralized government. We've known a government which is parang a black box of governance. Ibig sabihin, ang nangyayari sa gobyerno ay business lang ng gobyerno, wala tayong pakialam doon, madilim, black box. Sila lang nakakaalam. But this is now the challenge for us. How can we make it so that it's not centralized anymore but localized? And that there is participatory governance where all of us are part of the process. Second, civil society organization, and I think youth groups are part of this community of reformists. We're used to having a protest and opposition identity. Sanay po ang mga aktivista yung nagwewelga, nagrarally, nagpro-protesta. Pero ang hindi pa po natin masyadong natututunan at sinusubukan tutunan ngayon, how can we be partners for reform? For those champions, the few champions that we have inside government. Third, we're used to information as power. That those who have power, those who have information have the power. Diba? But what can we try to move towards? We can try to move towards information-based power, where we ourselves, we try to get the information that we need so that we can be part of the decisions. At hindi na po mahirap yan ngayong meron na tayong www.something-something, Google, Wikipedia, the full disclosure policy, and hopefully the freedom of information bill. Okay. So ngayon po tayo sa patronage politics. Politics of the politician, na sila ang namumuno at nagdo-dominate sa politika. But what should we have instead? Let's try to move towards this, the politics of the citizen, or transformative politics, where we make the decisions about our future and about our country. Because all of this, on the left side, leads to a culture of impunity, where leaders feel that they can abuse us because wala namang mananagot, o walang magpapanagot sa kanila. Let's try to move towards this, a culture of accountability, where our leaders know that they need to serve us and that we will hold them accountable. Those are the challenges for empowerment. Okay, let me go here. Yung politics, governance, development context for the 2013 elections, for me, I would put it this way, that we have reform-oriented champions inside governments, and inside our government, and they need allies who will support the reform agenda. The 2013 elections will signify support for and strength of the reform track. Support for reform track is needed to significantly improve reform kasi kulang na kulang pa po. And to make these irreversible. Because right now, yung full disclosure policy ni Secretary Jessie Robredo is in a memorandum circular from the ILG. What happens in 2016? Pag mag-iba na po yung leadership, then you don't have that again. So we need to make all of these reforms irreversible. And it will take time. It will take more than 3 years. It will take more than 6 years. And finally, that reform successes need to be felt at the local level by our communities to be able to sustain the reform track beyond 2016. And we will need to help with that. So ang message ko po dyan, message number 3, the 2013 elections is an important juncture in our path to reform. And the reform constituency must make an impact. So it's not as romantic. 2013 is not as dramatic, as romantic as 2010 when we were electing a president. But it's still important because it will let us know if we will have more reform allies or we will have enemies of reform in government. And we have a part there. Let me move to my last message. Okay. I believe that for the youth, there are several areas where you can move and you have that option. On the, on the left side, the farther side is non-partisan engagement. Pag-usapan natin yan ng konti. Dito naman po, partisan engagement. At sa gitna, multi-partisan. Let me talk about it a little bit. Okay. Sa Youth Vote Philippines, ang ina-advocate po or ang pinagsasamang pinagtatrabahuan ay yung non-partisan and multi-partisan engagement. I prefer multi-partisan because while the act might be non-partisan like voter registration or voter education, I think it's about time that we all put a stake in our leaders and we all decide who we want to vote for and support. Diba? So, but it can be different. We can have different candidates, but we need to be engaged. Okay, here are some of the ways that I think we can act in a non-partisan or multi-partisan manner. Okay, non-partisan. Voter registration, pero tapos na po ito. No? But this is what Youth Vote Philippines was campaigning for the past few months to get the first-time voters and young voters out there to register so that they can vote come May 2013. Voter education, this is what we should be doing now. This is what we should have been doing for a long time. And there's two areas. One is, as the young people, tayo yung magaling sa mga PICOS machine at mga teknolohiya na hindi sanay ang ibang mga tao. We can be the ones to teach them how to do the vote electronically. And on the other hand, tayo rin yung pwedeng magtulong na kilalanin ng ating mga communities kung sino ba ang mabubuting mga kandidato. So we can do that kind of voter education. Defining a youth agenda, that's the third area where Youth Vote Philippines works. It believes that each group of youth should know what it wants because yun yung dapat hanapin niya sa kanyang mga pipiliing leaders. And finally, the youth can help ensure clean, honest, and efficient election process in 2013. Ano po yung mga grupo that does bantay balota or poll watching? CPCRB? Yun may sinabi niya? And ano ba isa? NAMFREL. No, I think right now at least there's two groups that are going to do poll watching and we can be part of that. We need to ensure that we have clean, honest, and efficient elections. So ito yung non-partisan strategy. Dun sa partisan, okay, sorry, mali yung in-between elections. Please take that out. During elections, this is what we can do. We can start identifying and engaging our reform champions. Ang tawag ko po doon, social contract model. Which means once you've identified who you want to work with and support in the coming elections, you should be able to talk and engage that candidate para social contract ang model, hindi transactional. You need to be able to talk about what needs to happen in the next 3 years so that you can hold that candidate accountable for the promises that he or she makes. Political party building. Ito yung napakahina natin dito sa Pilipinas. And that's why it's the political families that are ruling the political scene because we do not have the parties that are able to draw are able to make decisions on an ideological or on a strategical way. Electoral campaigns. We can be engaged in electoral campaigns. But in between elections, a lot of work needs to be done and we must remember that. We need to nurture new candidates para hindi pare-pareho. At baka nandito na yung mga sinisimulan natin dapat i-nurture. Nandito na po sa kwartong ito. We need to engage reform champions. We can't engage them pag election time na. Dapat, even before elections, we're already talking to Mayor Gatchalian and Mayor Karen and all the mayors who we think we can engage to work towards the reforms that we want. We need to strengthen our reform constituency because as long as we are unorganized and we do not help each other, hindi tayo pakikinggan. Kung mag-isa lang ako, kung mag-isa ka lang, bakit tayo papakikinggan ni Mayor o ni Senator or ni Congressman or ni Kapitan? We need to act together. We need to strengthen our political parties. Again, that doesn't happen during elections. It has to happen even before election time. And finally, we need to strengthen our institutions. Kasi habang ngayon, unstable ang institutions natin, lahat ng mga reforma na gusto natin, mahirap maabot. So I think these are my recommendations and suggestions for young people about how we can engage in the 2013 elections. Because in the 2013 elections and beyond, the youth must step up and lead if we want change to happen. So let me just summarize it. So we need to build our constituency for reform. We need to be that constituency for reform. 2, the youth can make a difference. Don't let anyone believe na wala tayong pwedeng gawin and resort to hopelessness because we have a part. And it's also because of the unique characteristics that we have as young people who are the majority of the people in the Philippines right now. If we work together, we can make a big difference. And 3, the 2013 elections is an important juncture in our path to reform. And the reform constituency must make an impact in the 2013 elections. And finally, in the 2013 elections and beyond, the youth must step up and lead. Thank you. Salamat sa panahon, sa pakikinig. You might have, I will have to rush to the airport in a little while, but in case you have any questions, you're free to ask me na. Sige po. I saw a hand raised. Thank you. Ay, was that a hand? Okay. Hala ko palabas ka na ng card.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Sunny Baquecosa from University of San Carlos. I'm a political science student, 4th year. I just what is your stand on youth apathy or the apathy of our society? Because we conduct surveys in our school, we go to rural areas to ask about politics, and they would say, most of them, if not all, that politics is dirty. And we are taught in political science that we should influence or evangelize people that politics is a process. They should involve, they should participate in electoral process. Mom, how can you possibly change, especially the youth, the face of politics to be not dirty, but rather a process that they can involve with and address also the youth apathy or the apathy of the society in terms of politics?
Thank you. Actually, I think you have it. Okay. You articulated it so well, I think, no, na we have to really be able to communicate. And this is where I need your help. We need to be able to communicate na politics right now can be dirty, but if we don't engage it, it will remain dirty. So only by our participation can we ensure na mababago yun. But as long as we remain apathetic, as long as we remain uncaring about how politics is run, for as long as we consider it the work of the politicians, that's how it will be. So we will have no one else to blame for it being dirty but ourselves. No? But how do we communicate that? That's where I will rely on your help as the young people.
In Cebu, ma'am, we have CCMPEL or Cebu Citizens Involvement in People's Empowerment and Liberation. Ma'am, actually our programs, ma'am, don't only start during elections, but in the June or to going to election, ma'am, we go to places, we give values formation regarding participative politics, and we want to engage the community because mostly ma'am, rural areas or the people in rural areas, ma'am, or communities actually they consider politics as more they are hopeless, ma'am, and we give them the opportunity and the chance to let them discuss their issues and probably we give them solutions to their problem.
Great. No, it has to be. It's really that. No, as long as we don't care about as long as we don't think that the issues that matter to us are what will be considered by the politicians. Pinapabayaan natin yung politics. If we bring it down to that, what are the issues that are important to our communities, to the youth, then we can make this coming elections relevant. For example, in the case of your group, what is your advocacy area, or what is one of the things that you would want to happen in terms of changes in our country?
Actually, ma'am, in Sisimpel, we actually partner our Archdiocese of Cebu because actually, ma'am, the church plays an important role in good governance because people go to church and the priest, ma'am, actually give also some lectures on good governance and politics, and probably the church could also influence and evangelize people if in things like this, ma'am. So I guess probably the youth also, ma'am, will do something like this. They educate people not only in elections but also for stability, or there will be a sustainability of the process. It shall be a consistent on their programs or probably their engagement to the society.
Okay. Thank you. It's about communication, and that's what you're good at. That's what we're good at. So let's try to be better communicators so that politics is something na hindi nga abstract, kundi nandun talaga sa communities natin. Let's start talking to our politicians, let's start talking to our public servants, and asking them to pay attention to us. So I want to remind you of these characteristics that you have as young people. Sige po.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am George from Mariano Marcos State University, Lawag City, Ilocos Norte. My question is, I am a fan of the impeachment trial of the former Chief Justice Renato Corona. From the very first day until the last, I was watching and trying to come up with the topic or the issue which they are discussing. And I am such disappointed with some of the senators. May I name one? The Senator Labi, who for me I think is not, this is my opinion, he is not competitive in the Senate because, let's go straight, poor educational background. What I want to say is that, do you think, ma'am, this is about time? This is a time to make a change sa mga criteria ng pagpili ng pwedeng tumakbo? Sinasala naman sila, di ba? Sinasala naman sila ng mga tao ng mga authorities bago makatakbo. I just doubt kung paano nakapasok si Lito Lapi. I doubt kung paano nakapasok yung mga incompetent na nakaupo ngayon. What pains me to know is that sometimes kasi hindi lang nakarely sa mga hindi ganun kagaling na botante, kundi nakarely kasi wala silang choice. Yung choice nila, konti lang yung may potential. Pero pwede namang nasa voters side yung problema, pwede rin yung nasa choices na yung problema. So do you think, ma'am, it's about time to para make a change or amend some of yung mga criteria sa pagpasok ng mga
criteria? I agree, and actually, wag niyo ako susumbong kay Mayor Gatchalian. Pero yung sinasabi nga niyan kanina na it's up to the voters kung hindi dahil sa good performance, kung hindi sila magpo-perform ng mabuti, hindi naman sana sila ma-elect. Totoo din, pero totoo rin naman na ngayon, kulang pa yata sa awareness ang marami sa ating mga kababayan tungkol nga sa ano ba ang tama or mabuting criteria. And I completely agree, it's time to make a change. But, sino yung gagawa ng change na yun? Kayo. And you will have to communicate it. Kasi kung matitira lang dito sa loob ng room, no, yung kaalaman na yun, nothing will happen. So, I really appreciate that point. Na I think, if we want to elect some leaders, it's not enough that we ourselves know the criteria that we want. We are able to communicate and share it with others, other young people, and our parents, our families, our communities. That's why we also have to engage in our communities. Because as long as sinabi po nung speaker ng kaninang unang nagsalita, no, if we remain apathetic, ganun lang, we won't be able to change anything. Is there anything else? Any other actually, I think it's you know the answers. Are there any other suggestions or comments before I head back to Manila? Any last point? Quick kwento. May nabasa ako recently na sa Japan, dahil minority yung mga kabataan, hindi talaga sila pinapakialaman ngayon ng mga politicians. So nung last elections, hardly any of the young people went out to vote. So I was just struck by that because I realized we're so lucky. There are so many of us right now. And a lot of us who have this kind of awareness, this kind of thinking. So let's try to maximize that we have that opportunity in the Philippines to shape how politics will happen so that we have good governance and the development that we want. Is there any last question? Comment po. Sige, sino yung may comment? Last comment.
Yes, I'm Rod Saladar. I just wanna have a comment with regards to the statement or the question from, or the opinion from the person who's residing in the office. It doesn't mean that a certain person can, or if the certain person is incompetent on a certain activity, it doesn't mean that all the time he's incompetent because each of us has its individual differences, and we cannot consider a certain mistake or a certain failure to be consistent onto its daily achievements or activities.
See, this is what I love about young people. We're able to engage in debate like this, such rich debate, where meron din naman point yung nauna at meron ding point ngayon. No, and the idea is how can we talk to each other to come up with that criteria that we will all feel comfortable with and want to move forward with. No, so let's continue talking to each other and let's continue talking to our leaders, and that's the way that we can jump high and step up and take the lead. So maraming salamat ulit sa inyong lahat.